In the dusty courtyards of the Adamawa military barracks, where the early morning duties and chores mingled with the laughter of children in their school uniforms, rushing to school, Noel and Nanlep forged an inseparable bond of what could have been. Life in the barracks was austere and regimented, mornings filled with drill, days punctuated by lessons in discipline, and evenings marked by the well-behaved dutiful children under the watchful eyes of parents that were already back home from work. Yet, amid this rigidity, two children found a space where dreams ran wild and imagination soared. Noel was quiet, gentle and thoughtful, a boy with a gaze that absorbed every detail. Nanlep too shared the same leveled-head gentleness and calm. Together, they built grand kingdoms in hopes and dreams. Their favorite refuge was nestled in their long lonely walk at dusk from their church choir rehearsals to their houses which the birds in the air wished the walk of young lovers could last forever. They created a world where time slowed, and every whispered secret was a sacred treasure. There were moments so vivid that Noel could recall them with crystal clarity even in later years. One afternoon, after a particularly long day of school, she rested in his room and shared his company. They shared lots of beautiful moments with great regards for each other and were both modest and remained young virgins in love. Yes, they never crossed the boundaries. They spent most of their time together, and most people who knew one knew the other. Always sharing dreams and heartbeats. One day, Nanlep declared, eyes fierce with determination, "We'll travel far beyond these barracks. I'll be a teacher, and you'll be so rich you can buy all the good things in the world." Noel laughed, but deep inside, he treasured her words. In the innocence of their youth, nothing was impossible. However, as time marched on, the closeness they once shared began to shift. When Nanlep was accepted into a prestigious boarding school in Jos, the vibrant laughter they had shared was replaced by long, silent goodbyes. On the day she left, the world seemed to pause just for a moment. Huddled in a corner behind the barracks, Nanlep clung to Noel, her small hand gripping his tightly. "Don't forget me," she whispered, eyes brimming with unshed tears. Noel's own eyes shone with unsaid promises as he replied, "I won't." The bus that whisked her away left a trail of dust, and Noel stood rooted in place for what felt like an eternity, trying desperately to memorize every detail of her face. As the days turned into weeks, their once frequent encounters dwindled. When Nanlep did return during holidays, a distance had settled between them, a subtle but unmistakable change in her laughter and the way her eyes no longer searched his as they once had. The neem tree, their childhood sanctuary, now bore witness to a fragile connection, one that had been altered by time and change. Noel eventually left for Lagos after his graduation from senior secondary school, to reunite with his father in Lagos. Their departure was marked by quiet resignation instead of a dramatic farewell. Even as new friends and experiences replaced the old, the memory of Nanlep lingered, a bittersweet reminder of a love that once was. Lagos was a city of relentless pace and pulsating energy, a stark contrast to the quiet, measured rhythm of Adamawa. As Noel navigated the sprawling metropolis, he found himself immersed in a cacophony of sounds, colors, and ambitions. The early years in Lagos were harsh, sleepless nights spent in cramped small barracks that couldn't measure up to 5 blocks of building in the barracks that he was used to. Discomfort and privacy forced him to seek a nest outside the barracks. Laboring at odd jobs, and the constant struggle to find one's footing in a world driven by volume and haste. Yet Noel's determination was as unyielding as it had been in the barracks. Slowly, with unmatched perseverance, he climbed the ladder of success. By the time he reached his mid-30s, Noel had become a formidable presence in the business community. He owned a successful logistics company and several properties, and his discreet yet remarkable ascent had earned him a quiet reputation as a man who valued substance over style. His marriage to Clara, a gentle and devoted educator he met at a leadership seminar, provided him with a semblance of domestic calm. Clara exuded kindness and nurtured their 2 children with a steady hand, yet even her warm presence could not entirely fill the silent spaces within Noel's soul. On quiet evenings in his penthouse, when Lagos lights shimmered like distant stars, Noel would open an old album and run his fingers over a faded photograph, two young children, bare feet, and smiles that seemed to capture all the wonder of the world. There, beneath the branches of a neem tree, stood Nanlep and him, forever captured in the purity of childhood friendship and unspoken love. Back in Adamawa, Nanlep's life had taken a different path. She married Musa, a man whose ambitions were as rigid as the disciplined routines of the barracks. Musa was a government official with a stern demeanor and a resolve that left little room for what he saw as sentimental indulgence. Despite the constraints of her marriage, Nanlep found fulfillment in her children, especially in the bright eyes of her firstborn, Aisha, and in her official engagements and busy schedules. However, the quiet moments that followed the day's duties often brought memories of Noel flooding back, memories tinged with bittersweet nostalgia and the weight of what might have been. One ordinary afternoon, as Nanlep scrolled through Facebook after finishing her work, a name unexpectedly appeared, Noel J. Her heart raced as she clicked on the profile. There he was, older now, bearing the traces of time, graying hair, a dignified beard, and eyes that still held the kindness she remembered so well. After a moment of hesitation, Nanlep sent him a friend request. The very next day, Noel accepted, and a cascade of memories stirred between them. Their digital reconnection quickly blossomed into nightly conversations. What began as cautious inquiry soon transformed into deep, soul-bearing exchanges. They spoke of childhood escapades, dreams deferred, marriages built on responsibilities rather than passion, and the silent regrets that haunted their hearts. Noel sent her old photographs of their youthful adventures. Nanlep, in turn, would shed tears as she recounted forgotten stories from their shared past. "Remember when you promised you'd never leave?" Nanlep once typed, her words laced with longing. "And you promised to wait," Noel replied. They both knew that life had pulled them in different directions, yet in those exchanges, it seemed as though time had momentarily folded in on itself. Their conversations, rich with nostalgia and the unyielding ache of lost years, never crossed forbidden boundaries, yet the emotional undercurrents were powerful enough to remind them of a love that had never truly died. Late one night, while Noel sat by the window in his study, Clara entered softly. "You've been distant these days," she said, her voice tender but laced with concern. Noel offered her a gentle smile as he closed his eyes in what seemed like silent prayer. "Just thinking, love. Thinking about old days." But his thoughts had traveled back to a time when he and Nanlep sat beneath the neem tree, laughing as though the world belonged to them. The memories were as vivid as they were painful, a poignant reminder that some loves are destined to remain in the shadows of our hearts. The days turned to months, and then to years, until a twist of fate re-entered Noel and Nanlep's interconnected lives, a twist in the form of Nanlep's daughter, Aisha. One crisp morning, as Nanlep updated her status with photos from Aisha's nursing school program, Noel's attention was captured by the images he saw. Aisha, so beautiful with her mother's dark skin but slim fit prettier with her confident smile, luminous eyes, and a quiet strength, reminded him of both her mother and the promise of hope. Aisha's was unmistakable and youthfully fresh in grace and beauty, yet there was a freshness to her, a modern grace combined with an inherent intensity that spoke of an independent spirit. Noel's heart, which had long lain dormant, stirred with a protective warmth. In a message that carried both admiration and a touch of wistfulness, he typed, "She's gorgeous. I wish I could have been there to see her grow." Nanlep's reply was measured yet touched with sadness, "She's my pride and my legacy. She carries our dreams forward, even if life has changed our paths. Are you sure that she is not my child?" Noel's joke was more of a wishful thinking. Yet beneath those simple exchanges, Noel harbored a resolve to do something extraordinary for Aisha, a desire to help her realize her full potential. He looked at the picture over again and downloaded them to his cell phone. He proposed, tentatively at first, that he would invite her to Lagos and make her have fun in Lagos before returning back to Yola. Then he thought of sponsoring her advanced studies in nursing abroad. Nanlep balked initially, afraid of overstepping boundaries. Musa's disapproval of any excessive influence from outsiders was well known, and tradition ran deep in her household. "She's my daughter, and I know what's best for her," Nanlep would say in hushed tones, her voice mixed with regret and determination. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. A few months later, despite Musa's staunch refusal and Nanlep's anxious protests, Aisha arrived in Lagos with a determination that belied her tender age. But like her mother who decided to abandon Noel and went to school in a boarding school in Jos, Aisha too chose to abandon her boyfriend, Abdul, who was not in support of the idea. "I want to pursue my dreams," she declared firmly as she stood in the grand foyer of Noel's home. "I want to see the world beyond what I've known." Noel's heart swelled with pride, admiration for the young lady, and sorrow in equal measure. In Aisha, he saw both the promise of a future that might have been his own and the echo of his lost past with Nanlep. With great care and generosity, he enrolled her in a prestigious 2-year program in the United Kingdom. For every step of her journey, from pre-departure in Lagos to her eventual ascent in a foreign land, Noel quietly assisted Aisha and cared for her as his own, steering clear of any impropriety while offering her the wings to soar. Back home, Nanlep's voice trembled on phone calls with her daughter. "Your Uncle Noel has done so much for you, and she would begin, but the confession remained incomplete, stifled by years of regret and unmet longing. Aisha, though grateful and determined, sensed the unspoken complexities simmering beneath the surface. Every update she sent to Noel, from her academic triumphs to her moments of quiet reflection, was received with a care that transcended mere mentorship. It was, in every sense, an echo of a love that had matured beyond the boundaries of youthful romance. Aisha's time in the United Kingdom was a transformative period, a journey of self-discovery, academic accolades, and the forging of lifelong friendships. Noel and Aisha exchanged emails filled with both the mundane details of daily life and profound reflections on what it meant to create change. Aisha's heart became entangled with him and she became very fond of him. Aisha started imagining that she had seen the kindness in him that made her mother loved him so much. But in reality, she never saw a scratch of the man who was her mother's first love. In each message he sent, Noel's careful encouragement was a balm to Aisha's ambitions, while also stirring within him memories of his once-forgotten love. As her program neared completion, Aisha began to share her grand vision, a modern, state-of-the-art hospital in Yola, designed primarily for women and children, a healthcare center that would stand as a monument to resilience and hope. "I want to build something that can give back," she explained during one of their lengthy video calls. "A place where the sick find comfort and the lost find hope." Noel's response was immediate and heartfelt. "Then we shall build it together," he declared, pledging to fund a substantial portion of the project, 80% of it, to be precise. His offer was made without fanfare, driven solely by a paternal desire to mend his own regrets while nurturing a future he believed in. But he encouraged her to get a job in her field and practice for 1 more year before coming back to Nigeria. And she did as advised. Not all was harmonious, however. In the warmth of Lagos, the undercurrents of tension began to surface. Clara, who had silently borne the weight of her husband's emotional absences for many years, found herself increasingly confronted by the reality of Noel's past. Late at night, when the house was cloaked in silence, she would overhear whispered conversations or catch fleeting glimpses of Noel staring longingly at old photographs of a smiling Nanlep. The memories, it seemed, lingered like ghosts in the corners of their lives. One cool evening, after a particularly tense family dinner, Clara finally confronted her husband. "Noel, I need to know, what is it about Nanlep that still haunts you?" she asked, eyes brimming with both hurt and determination. Noel lowered his gaze, caught between apology and regret. "It is not Nanlep as you know her, nor as you see her now," he murmured softly. "It is a piece of my past, the part of me that once believed in the innocence of dreams and unyielding love. And every time I see Aisha, I am reminded of what could have been." His words hung heavy in the air, leaving Clara with more questions than answers. Across town, in a modest home in Adamawa, Nanlep felt the stir of disquiet as Musa's temper grew sharper with each passing day. Musa's resentment surfaced in careless jabs and bitter remarks. "Your boyfriend in Lagos, what is he really doing by financing our daughter's education? It's as if he's not only trying to help but to reclaim what you once lost," he would say with a sneer. Nanlep, caught in the tug of duty and old affection, only managed a strained smile. At the same time, Aisha's ambitions soared. In London, her academic work earned accolades. She published research, attended international conferences, and forged bonds with mentors who recognized the brilliance within her, and she is just a little below 24 years of age. She was in a high speed of academic accomplishment and Noel was delighted to be a part of it. Through every triumph, Noel was a constant, unwavering presence, an echo of support that transcended generational boundaries. During one heartfelt call, Aisha asked, "Uncle Noel, what happens when I come back to Nigeria? How do I build upon what I've learned abroad to help those I love?" Noel's voice, thick with emotion, replied, "We build your dream from the ground up, brick by brick, hope by hope. Let our past guide us, but not define us." In Lagos, preparations began in earnest for Aisha's return. Though the arrangements were meticulous, there was an underlying tension. Clara, Noel's wife, watched the evolving relationship with an uneasy resignation. There was a tenderness and dedication in Noel's gestures towards Aisha that went beyond professional courtesy, and though he always maintained a respectful distance, the lines of affection were blurred by the shared burden of an unfulfilled past. The day finally came when Aisha returned to Nigeria. With her hair tied back in a neat bun and eyes shining with purpose, she was received with a mixture of admiration and curiosity by the welcoming party at the airport. Noel greeted her with a simple placard that read, "Welcome home, Aisha." When she caught sight of him, she jumped onto him and hugged him in appreciation of a fatherly love, and a true friend she had found in him. Aisha related with him as a father figure, but they talked as friends. Her smile expressed both gratitude and a quiet understanding, the kind that spoke of shared secrets and unspoken promises. And so, plans were drawn for a hospital that would serve not just as a center for healing but as a beacon of transformation in a community that had long known neglect and hardship. In Yola, the vision of a modern hospital was coming to life. The blueprint was ambitious, a center designed for women and children, equipped with cutting-edge facilities and staffed by professionals dedicated to compassionate care. Aisha, with Noel's steadfast backing, oversaw every detail, from securing grants to negotiating with local authorities. Even as challenges arose and setbacks threatened to stall progress, her determination never wavered. Every time Aisha visited the construction site in Yola, Noel's supportive eyes followed her every move. "Your heart is in the right place," he would say, his voice a mixture of pride and melancholy. It was as if every brick laid was a testament to dreams deferred and realized anew. The hospital, christened as the Hope Bloom Women's Center, stood as a monument to the promise of tomorrow. On its opening day, amid fluttering banners and the hum of excited voices, the air was charged with emotion. Nanlep, resplendent in her modest elegance, and Aisha, luminous in her ceremonial white coat, graced the event with smiles that masked the hidden layers of pain and longing. Yet, one absence was painfully evident. In the midst of the parade of dignitaries and well-wishers, including friends of Noel in high places, an empty chair marked Noel's intended place. That night, as twilight folded over the city, Aisha called him. "Uncle Noel, why weren't you there?" she pleaded softly. Her voice trembled with hurt and unmet expectations. She broke up and let his flow. The sobbing, and then cry that she was holding back with all her strength. In his quiet study, Noel closed his eyes and allowed one tear drop. "I was not strong enough," he confessed through tearful words, because seeing your mother there would have reminded me of every cherished memory we lost. His admission was heavy with the weight of decades, a solace for his own wounded heart, and yet another chain of longing binding him to the past. Aisha's tears flowed freely as she whispered, "You helped build this dream for me, yet your absence leaves a void I cannot fill." And as the night deepened, so did the cracks in the face of success. Beneath every achievement lay the echoes of shared sorrows and unhealed wounds. The seasons turned, and life, in its relentless march, continued to shape all who were involved. Aisha's hospital became highly recommended and recorded great achievements and successfully completed surgical operations by registered surgeons. But Noel's troubles never ended there. 3 years later, Aisha personally and honorably invited Noel to her wedding in Yola and compelled him to promise to be there. Do you think that Noel will be there? Drop your comment and opinion below, and please, subscribe to this channel and share this story. Thanks.